Hello everyone and welcome to today's session on autonomous operations, the runway to 100% straight-through processing in collaboration with Chazey partners. To quickly introduce myself, my name's Beth, I'm a conference producer and editor here at SSOM, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. For those of you joining us for the first time, or perhaps you want just a quick reminder, I'm going to run you through how you can control the console you see in front of you. First of all, you can maximize your view of the slides and the media player if you need to see anything closer or a little bit clearer. There's also an attendee chat on the bottom left of your screen where you can pose questions to our speakers, and we always encourage that you do so, as we do always reserve time for an audience Q&A. Next, you should see a smiley face tab at the bottom of your screen. As it's not easy presenting online, especially when you can't see the audience, we've included this tab to allow you to send emoji reactions such as a thumbs up or a round of applause. So please feel free to do so if you're enjoying the session or agree with a particular point. There's also a question mark at the bottom of your screen where you can see answers to common FAQs. But if you have any other technical issues, please feel free to message in the attendee chat, and either myself or my colleagues will do our very best to help you out. Next, we have our Head and Shoulders icon where you can learn more about our speakers and connect with them on LinkedIn. And finally, as always, we have our resources tab, which always includes some great resources from our speakers, the sponsors, and the SSO network. For today's session, we have a great range of articles for you and content pieces, such as the SSON report on the transformation in the age of AI. And we have links to a couple previous webinars, including one on operating model transformation with AI and another on the future of business and adapting and thriving in the digital world. So introducing our lovely speakers today, we're starting with Lee Coulter, the Global Head of Transformation at Chazey Partners, who brings over 25 years of global leadership, notably as CEO of Shared Services at Ascension and CAO at Kraft Foods. He pioneered intelligent automation for over a decade, founding the IEEE Working Group on Standards and serving on as SSON's Chief Intelligent Automation Officer. Combining expertise in GBS and shared services and ERP, Lee is a transformative leader with a rare blend of skills in business and technological innovation. Next, we have Esteban Carril, who is the Managing Director for LATAM at Chazey Partners. Esteban has 20 years of finance, shared services, and operations management experience in different multinational companies. He was the Shared Services Director for LATAM at EMC Corporation, where he was responsible for establishing and optimizing a multitask shared service center across the whole region. Esteban is a CPA who graduated from Universidad de Buenos Aires and holds an executive MBA degree with honors from IAE Universidad Austral. So with that being said, thank you Esteban and Lee for joining us, and I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Beth. And it's great to be with everyone today. And we have some pretty exciting stuff. Well, for us, it's exciting. Today, we really want to talk about this is our series. This is the third. I'm going to jump forward and then come back. In August, we kicked off a series of webinars focusing on AI readiness. And the first one was on operating models, the second on digital transformation for AI. And today is really AI-enabled business process management. And this is a pretty exciting topic, and the notion of straight-through processing will be a fundamental focus for us as we go through the content today. It's a pretty rich deck. That's my fault. I tried to simplify it, but there's a lot of content in there. So at some points we may have to race through it, but the slides, as always, will be available to everyone. Now I'm going to hand it over to Esteban to introduce Chazey just a little bit.
Thanks very much, Lee, and hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our webinar today. Lee, it's a great pleasure to be here with you for this promising session. Thanks for having me. So before we get started, yes, I would like to give some small background, very briefly background about who we are. Chazey is a global management consulting firm specialized in business transformation, artificial intelligence, and business process outsourcing. We've been in the market for almost 20 years. Our company is headquartered in Austin, in Texas, and have global presence, including offices in Europe, Asia, and Latin America, where I'm responsible. We have helped a number of organizations all around the world optimize and transform their operations across multiple sectors, including finance, IT, procurement, HR, and for more than 20 years. So I will not mention all our clients in this slide, but I'm just sure you can recognize some of the names here. We supported several transformations, organizations, including multiple companies, multiple global companies around the world. So with that said, I will now hand over to you, Lee.
Fantastic. But I want to just, as we head into this conversation, and I've said this at the beginning of every one of the webinars in this series, AI is a tactic, not a strategy. It is an enabler. It is a thing that helps you achieve, in the same way that, RPA was not a strategy. It was a tactic. It was a way to enable and accelerate corporate strategies. And I just want to keep focusing on that. So what are we really talking about? And I say this every time, and even for myself, it's a little bit freaky. This is the slowest pace of change we will experience for the rest of our lives today. It's only going to get faster from here on out. It's just hard to believe that that's true, but it's absolutely true. And AI has reached a level of maturity where it's really, truly production ready and is beginning to make massive changes in our world. And I always hate to say, be disrupted or be the disruptor, but it's kind of showing itself to be true. Just 20 years ago, the S&P, the average company spent 62 years on the S&P. Now that number is like right around 7 years. And it just goes to show you that the age of disruption is truly here. So hopefully the stuff that we're sharing here will help to lay out a course for your companies in terms of how do we actually achieve autonomous operations, because you can bank on the fact that there will be competitors in your space in the next 10 years that are doing so with virtually no labor. So real quickly, just to take a look at the agenda for today, we're going to set the stage with a little bit of background, talk about what the challenges are, and then look at what's the potential for what AI can bring to us, and then look at what the plan is and what is required in order to deliver on the plan. So why are we talking to GBS? It's really fascinating, but I've been in the world of GBS for 30 years, and it is always the center of gravity for process savvy, technology savvy, management savvy, metric savvy, measurement savvy, right? It's the most sophisticated group of operators in the business, in almost every business. And so it becomes the place that is expected to be the leader. And honestly, even the word straight through processing is kind of, that concept only really lives in GBS. And I know, Esteban, you have some thoughts on STP.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about the STP, I think it's very importantly that we understand what it really means. And when we try to understand what it really means is, STP stands for straight through processing, right? And the term was originally coined in the 90s by the financial industry, and it was really inspired by the goal of making stock trading as automated as possible. And simply put, STP is a method where you can see and you can automate entire transaction process within a workflow, allowing transactions to be completely electronically without human intervention. So while many GBS organizations in Latin America, as well as the rest of the world, are adopting STP for specific functions, I think that we're still struggling to achieve full STP across all processes. And this is the challenge that we have in many companies. And I think that one of the reasons why we're willing to understand what it needs to be done, and this is going to be the content of this webinar, on trying to understand what it needs to be done to resolve all the limitations that we currently have to make sure that we achieve 100% full STP.
Outstanding. And again, just the same way that STP lives very naturally with GBS, GPS, and BPM. And for our purposes today, when we say BPM, We're not talking about a product, although there are products that specialize in business process management. We're talking about BPM as a practice and as a methodology. And GBS has been doing this, most notably with RPA and intelligent automation and just all of the things at GBS. So I don't have to convince you all on the phone today why we're talking here with the GBS crowd. Now, as Esteban mentioned, STP, the notion of it was placed, if you will, in the 90s, originally around stock trading. But when you apply it now to the management of overall business process across the functions of business, it was pretty much at zero. Everything was manual in 1950. And you can kind of see the evolution and what percentage in aggregate of business process is being performed with technology without human intervention. And you can obviously see that the stick begins to get much faster as we see ERP and BPO. BPO created a real focus on business process, specialization, and the application of targeted automation technologies. And of course, now we're in this world where literally 100% STP is possible. True autonomous operations are possible. Now, we're going to unpack what that means, because it doesn't mean it's like possible right this second today, except in a very limited case. But with intention and deliberate implementation, we absolutely will get there.
And Lee, I think it's very important to mention here that I'm sure you remember a few years ago, artificial intelligence and intelligent automation started from being completely different concepts. And today
Yes.
they are almost becoming synonyms as both technologies are now converging. So
Yes.
artificial intelligence is becoming more sophisticated and empowering intelligent automation to handle more complex decision-making activities. So that is what is really attractive in understanding how we can make sure that we can maximize the power of these tools to achieve 100% STP.
Well, I don't know if it'll stick, but I saw a new term out there, AIA, artificial intelligent automation. We'll see if it sticks. But whatever they call it, they are coming together. So the next couple of slides, we really took a look at what are the challenges. Like if getting to 100% STP is our challenge, or is our objective, what are the challenges? So I'm going to jump to the conclusion here and then come back and unpack the individual components. So we first said, all right, well, what are the challenges? Let's look at the heat map. And what's interesting is that these are the same things that we have been fighting with and battling with our entire careers, right? Dealing with legacy systems. How many decades we've been fighting with legacy systems. We look at integration issues, another 9 out of 10 on the heat map. And then you look at process complexity. Look at what happens as you expand geographically and your regulatory world becomes infinitely more complex. Look at what happens when you do acquisitions and divestitures and you have, an application quilt. These are not new, but as we look at 100% STP, we've got a couple of new things, access to data and fundamental data architecture misalignment. And we'll talk more about that. All right, so now we know we've got some pretty severe challenges, right? How do we integrate our systems of record? Was to participate well and embrace new functionality, which moves the STP up from its 60% to something closer to 100. Well, similar evaluation here, which is, okay, how critical are these things to the success of being able to get to STP? Not a big surprise. Legacy systems and integration issues, process complexity, and data silos also rise to the very top. So as we look at the stuff that is our biggest challenge, how important it is to our success, we find that they are the same things. And these are things that we have been wrestling with for decades. anybody who's been a part of a Big Five's, ERP implementation program, this is the conversation of every day for that kind of work. But what is interesting here is that we now have some new can openers to unopen some new tools that give us a capability that we've never had before. So let's look very specifically of, as we begin to put AI into business process management, what it can do for us. So this first view is when you say task group on the left here. So AI is not a panacea, and what I mean by that is it's not a magic bullet. It's not like I can implement one thing and get there. When we look at these task groups, observe and examine process execution and exception, well, there's several AI capabilities that we need to bolt together in order to get that capability. And even when we do, it has limitations, right? To gather data and understand context. Well, there are some AI capabilities, multiple, that when we bolt them together allows us to understand full context. There's still limitations. So as we look at these new capabilities, and as we begin to think about the logical progression of which areas of AI should we be prioritizing, we'll begin to unpack what is the right sequence of capabilities and why. So let's go into significantly deeper detail on this, because I think it's really important for folks to understand. So what we have here is really a view of 8 core functional groups, and those are along the bottom of this graph. So data integration and operability, predictive and preventative maintenance, process mining and discovery, etc. And then we mapped that against the challenges, both critical and severe, that rose to the top, which is our legacy systems, integration challenges, process complexity, cultural resistance. These things are as old as time itself. But what we're really beginning to see here is that AI, in combinations, in well-reasoned and in deliberately assembled combinations, is capable of really making a difference on these. And so we're going to unpack for you in a bit more detail what do we mean and how do we get there. All right. So multiple AI disciplines are needed here. Now, if I bounce back to the previous slide and you see these items listed along the bottom here, these 8 capability clusters, you'll see those capability clusters here in the column on the left. And then what we've done is decompose, okay, for data integration and interoperability, what actual AI technologies do we need to literally implement? Like we need to purchase products, we need to implement them in our environment, and we need to then train them, develop them, and begin to apply them to very specific kinds of work. And this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I just want to bring an example here. Let's assume that an AP team receives thousands of invoices every month from multiple suppliers in multiple formats, right? And it's really making it really hard to process with traditional RPA alone. So what you're talking about here, Lee, is that why don't we combine RPA with OCR empowered with AI, or maybe natural language processing, so you can start processing invoices, flag exceptions, and notify a human to review it. And over time, the AI will learn the patterns and improve the ability to handle similar situations in the future without human intervention. So that's what we're really talking about when we're talking about STP, right? We're talking about not only processing the standard process, but also having the ability to process and handling the exceptions, right? Which is the main issue today with most of the companies.
And you hit exactly. If you look at automated workflows and orchestration, we've got RPA plus ML plus fuzzy logic. You just literally described exactly what we're talking about here, which is, okay, you need to have some actual task automation capability. Well, you also need some ML because you're going to need some predictive analytics. I predict that this invoice is going to have the following 4 errors. And then you need fuzzy logic that said, okay, I'm going to self-heal, I'm going to self-correct, I'm going to create and deploy new process flows that might be only used for that one transaction that will result in the automatic resolution of the exception states that that one invoice is sitting in. And I think it's a great illustration of what we're talking about here, because people will, that resonates, I think, with people, because we've been bolting together RPA with OCR and NLP and other tools, and we're really beginning to see with the power, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. And when you look at this, it's 1 + 1 + 1 = 7. It really changes the level of power and impact that we can have with these. Couple worth noting here: compliance and audit monitoring. Now, this is pretty sophisticated stuff, but for anybody who's been managing enterprise processes, compliance and regulatory monitoring is so difficult to do. You almost always have to do it by looking in the rear view mirror. And it's very expensive. The costs of defect are very high because it impacts, your corporate reputation. It might, like, bother investors. I mean, it's really a big deal. And this is one where, AI is going to change that game, and we're going to dive much deeper into how that comes to pass.
And just
all right, so here's where we kind of
just as an example of compliance, anti-money laundering laws, for example, in the financial sector, that requires financial institutions to monitor and flag suspicious transactions. And while some of these can be automated using machine learning, there is always manual intervention for these cases that requires deeper investigation. So that's the type of limitations that we may have while trying to integrate and converge these tools, right? I mean, definitely there's a huge opportunity to try to come up with a tool where we can meet specific regulatory requirements from several industries.
I think it's a great example, Esteban, where the ability to integrate regulatory changes and turn those into changes in rules, in business rules, which then influence how business process gets executed. Rule-based systems, for those who are familiar with actual BPM product sets, rules engines are typically at the heart of BPM-based technology because a lot can be accomplished with rules engines. We're not going to dive deep into rules engines, but if folks are interested, we will absolutely consider bringing some more content about that into the future. All right, so here we have a couple of what I'm going to call it content-rich slides. So we're going to try to stay top line and just kind of hit on some of the essential elements. But remember, we've got 8 functionality clusters or capability clusters. And so what we want to deliver here for you is what does it really mean? So for data integration and interoperability, you can kind of imagine that AI is acting as a conductor and acting as a synthetic API. So instead of interfacing everything to everything, AI is able to communicate to all source systems and either place data in or take data out. And each request is made to the AI, and the AI serves it up as though there were an API. So it automates the transfer of data against both known rules, which might be probable rules. So probabilistic and predictive analytics that determine what is probably going to be required to fulfill that request for data from any place to any place in the enterprise. So it really it changes the game, what we talk about in terms of interoperability from a data perspective. The same thing, well, not the same thing, a separate cluster is predictive and preventative maintenance. For the fundamentals of every technology system that's ever been built, taking care of it has been difficult, and preventing it from going down has been difficult. AI operating in the background, detecting things that presage or predict breakdowns, allows for AI to manage systems in such a way that they are effectively never down, and that maintenance can be performed on them in ways and during times that ensures that you have universal availability, which for 100% STP will be very important. Esteban, what about process mining and discovery?
So there was always confusion about these mining technologies, right? What is really process mining, process discovery, task mining, productivity mining, etc. So when we're talking about process mining, I mean, these are really, really interesting tools that can help you analyze event logs generated by an ERP, for example, to assess how processes are executed in real life. And one of the features that include these tools is that you can visualize your process maps. They can give you some performance metrics to identify potential bottlenecks, errors, workloads, reworks, and it can also help you. And this is very interesting because I remember I have a lot of clients that they define their global templates, their global end state process, and the major challenge that they have is basically to understand where are the gaps between the real life operation in multiple countries and the global standard template that was implemented to be standardized. So these tools can also help you compare your actual process versus your expected process, which is absolutely fantastic when you are trying to standardize operations. While process discovery is a step where processes are automatically identified and documented, serving as the foundation for further analysis and improvement through process mining. In other words, process discovery is a subset of process mining. Now, when we are talking about automated workflows, basically we're talking about a tool that is focusing on automating specific rule-based tasks, and they are more limited in nature in terms of the scope. Usually they are currently operated in a single department function. An example would be client onboarding process, for example. This is a process that operates in a single department. So those are the type of tools that you may want to implement when you are trying to automate something within a specific department. While we are talking about orchestration, this tool provides you the higher level management of workflows. These tools can help you manage multiple workflows in multiple departments, in multiple systems, and they are executed in a connected way. So an example would be the order fulfillment process. The order fulfillment process triggers a lot of different workflows in credit, in cash, in shipping, logistics, supply chain. So there are a number of different workflows that needs to be connected. And orchestration is one of the tools that you may want to consider when you need to connect different processes.
Well, I think it's true. If I look at the last 10 years of focus, we have kind of singularly focused on automated workflows. That's kind of been the focus because we had some new tooling. And one of the points we're trying to make now is that there's a balanced set of tooling required to generate these core capabilities. And we've decomposed those into these 8. Knowledge management and data analytics. This is another place where the ability to train an LLM and to add context to data is absolutely remarkable. It is a game changer and is necessary for this world where we need to get to 100% straight through processing. And you can kind of imagine that if there's a bunch of unstructured data which tells the story of this structured data so that you can understand it. This is what people have been used for, right? People have been there to say, okay, all right, it came from this country at this time of day from this customer. That likely means it's this problem. Well, that contextual work can be done by technology, but we need to change the way we manage knowledge in the enterprise. About compliance and audit monitoring. But you can imagine if you now have technology that is literally using AI, whether it's large language models or NLP, other mining and discovery tools, to uncover regulatory changes and then integrate those into your environment on a real-time basis, on a continuous basis, where we're not reacting. And then, of course, the ever-important decision support systems, right?
Yeah, so also known as DSS, right? I mean, and these are computer-based systems that can help you make data-driven decisions by integrating and analyzing data, as well as providing recommendations. So let me just give you an example, Lee. There is a famous retail company in Latin America that uses DSS to optimize their inventory management across its more than 300 stores in the region. So DSS, what this DSS does is that they pull the internal data from sales records, supply chain databases, historical inventory data, and it also integrates with external data like seasonal trends, weather forecasts, which may also affect demand. So these DSS solutions can provide automated recommendations on restocking and alerts, when stocks reaches levels, and when we can help maintain the optimal stock levels and improving the overall supply chain efficiency. So
that's a great example, Leslie. An example of what we're talking about, which is possible with DSS.
Yeah, another one, Lee, is when we're talking about change management and employee engagement, there are a number of examples where AI can help. AI can help analyze historical data to predict which teams may struggle with change by looking at past responses to change management initiatives, turnover rates, and engagement scores. So definitely there are a number of things that can be done in the fields of change management and employee engagement by using AI.
I was just looking to see, are the slides now? It looks like it's fixed. Okay. Want to make sure the slides were advancing for everybody. All right. So we've kind of covered off on, there's a set of capability clusters. There are 8 that are pretty important to what we're talking about here with getting to 100% STP. All right. So now, how do we actually get there? So there's sounds simple, right? There's a pretty straightforward 4-phase plan that will get you to 100% STP. And we'll kind of break that into the foundations, right? You have to get automation in place. You have to understand your data. It's got to be high quality data. Then, as Esteban gave you an example of exactly what we're talking about in terms of insight generation and decision support, that becomes routine in your enterprise. Then you move to advanced process optimation. This is where technologies are actually suggesting processes, then simulating how that would work, and then being able to deploy that to production much the same way that we would deploy software to production. So as you can see, even phase 3 rely entirely on phase 1 and 2. And then, of course, when we get to phase 4, this is where AI is now driving, is a large contributor to the actual innovation that's going on in the enterprise. So we've got several, we've got a little breakdown here. And in the interest of time, because I do want to make sure we've got time for Q&A, I'm going to be really, really top line, foundational automation and data gathering. Jumping to the why first. So each one of these, we have what is it, what are the key elements in it, and why is it where it is in the sequence. So obviously you have to have a basic data foundation, and you have to be already automating a lot of task work as the foundation. You only build upon that. Looking for data integration tools and self-healing systems as a part of that, kind of round out that first phase of foundational automation. Insight generation. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I had scrolled down to see questions, so I missed your face there. So phase two, insight generation. This is when you hear people say, you know, AI won't take your job, but a person using AI might. This is kind of what we're talking about here, using AI and having NLP, context, decision support systems, and the ability to find out what went wrong using AI tools, as opposed to, you know, a room full of people doing fish bones in your Six Sigma, you know, workshop. And the reason that this is second is that it requires all of the data and task automation that exists in phase one.
Yeah, and I think here contextual awareness, as you are showing it in this slide, is absolutely critical, so that users don't have the feeling that they are really talking with a bot, right? Nobody wants to talk with a bot. Yeah. So imagine that you are developing an AI-driven customer agent to provide services to customers worldwide. You really need to identify which type of contextual information are key to develop your AI. That includes the context, right? The time zones, the location, the sentiment, past interactions that this user may have had with the bot, task-specific information. So this is absolutely critical, because again, I mean, in this new world, nobody wants to talk with a bot. At least it is smart. So that's my overall comment in terms of.
And what this is really talking about is turning AI at kind of the whole environment. And allowing it to learn the environment, so that it when asked about the context of a particular person or data or a transaction, it has all of the information necessary to generate that contextual awareness, which is a game changer.
Right.
Phase three, advanced process automation. We talked about that, really what that is. Now we're using simulations. We are deploying actual processes that were simulated and built by the AI. We have exception handling systems in place that begin to look like self-healing. You know, it's actually at the point now where it sees an exception, it simulates a new process, evaluates it, deploys it, observes it, and ensures that it completes the objective. Obviously, that's like nirvana to us process geeks. Phase four, now we're actually having, you know, AI with reinforcement learning and continuous learning systems now being a part of the innovation world, which it sounds so phantasmagorical that you can't believe that, like, you know, it's like science fiction movies, but we're really not that far away from where we are sitting here today. So I was really careful with this timeline because I didn't want people to be like, you know, these guys at Chazey are just nut jobs. We might be, but not about this, okay? So if there were no other priorities in your business, so we're saying that out front, if there were no other priorities in your business, this is a reasonable timeline if you had full investment for this work, and if you've heard other companies, a few companies, just a handful, have said we're all in on AI. What that means is what I just outlined. This project, this 4-phase project, to end up in a place where AI is actually driving innovation for your company. That's what being all in on AI is. Now, I don't think we have to go all the way there. And I think what we're going to probably see, I'm going to go to, in the interest of time, well, where did my process priorities slide go? Yeah, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit here to strategy. I'm looking at the time and knowing that we've got some content left to cover. But when we look at prioritizing our investment, where are we going to do things that have a customer impact? And that's really the key here, is you could do this, you could run this whole program against all of the processes of your enterprise, but that's not the way it's going to work. It's going to start in one of these four areas. Most likely, depending on the nature of your business, whether you're a product business or a service business, it'll either start in customer service and support or supply chain / operations. And of course, everybody will be deploying some level of this focus in the sales and marketing world. We're already beginning to see AI managed and AI envisioned advertising.
So in other words,
so
in other words, I think, I mean, just to put it in a nutshell, I think that you really need to focus investments where there is enough transactional volumes, there is a significant business impact, high error rates, and regulatory requirements and scalability, right? I mean, those are the key conditions or the key drivers that you need to take into account.
Yes.
When trying to.
And where is 100% STP going to change the game with your customer, right? So fixing, getting HR to 100% STP, not going to change things with your customers most likely. So really, you're right, Esteban. It's really where can we put this on a priority basis that will impact our customers the best. I'm going to jump back just so when folks get the slides, you can see how the stuff that we're just going to touch over here. So new ways of working. What we wanted to demonstrate here is that there are activities and responsibilities that are going to be new. When people become data curators, what does that mean? When literally you have a job, you are monitoring ML models and doing drift analysis and bias measurement. That becomes jobs. These are new activities, new responsibilities. You will have AI process architects. There will absolutely be AI governance and ethics oversight that will do more than just sit around and chit chat about the complexities of ethics and AI, but will in fact have impact on the actual program that you're deploying here.
And Lee, I saw in your slide, in your prior slides, talking about the governance model, right? And I think there is a wake-up call for many GBS organizations here that they are trying to drive the AI agenda, that they will really need to revisit their governance model, right?
Yes.
GBS will need to think how to develop an ethical framework for the use of AI, how to solve problems of data distortion, master data management, bias management, data privacy, defining roles and responsibilities. Yes. So there are a number of things that we were not considering in the past in our governance models of GBS that are really, really important that we start considering initially in phase one of your 4-phase plan approach, right?
It's and I want to just highlight for everybody watching that please go back to look at webinars 1 and 2. They are logically sequenced. The content builds. So as we looked at the AI operating model, and then we looked at the technology and those components, and now we're here talking about BPM. There's a lot of great content. We unpack governance in 2 different huge aspects in both of the previous webinars. So we talked about strategy and prioritization. And the last thing we'll cover here is the fact that obviously you have to have metrics. But what's interesting here is the metrics really should be business metrics. Financially, what does it do? Because remember, AI is not a strategy, it's a tactic. What's happening with your customer? What's happening with your people? And yes, then you want some process metrics because obviously we're focused in this case significantly on driving STP. So just a quick summary. Why, GBS, we talked about why we're talking about this with GBS. The challenges are not new, but AI gives us some new tools. Those process capability clusters help us to attend to long-standing issues. And there are things that AI can do that no human can do. And understanding how that helps us tackle these challenges that we've been working on for 30 years is super important. There is a plan. It's logically decomposed into phases that is eminently achievable. And when selecting the right place to begin, establishing good core metrics, we believe you can absolutely get to 100% STP in this decade, if you choose to. So at this point, we are at time, but I'm going to ask Beth, do we have time to take a couple of questions?
That's a good question. I think we can definitely squeeze in one or two questions. So first of all, thank you both for a great presentation. I do think it's a benefit when the presentation overruns a little bit, when it's full of great content. So I always appreciate a long presentation. So we had a first question that I did take a note of. So the first question that came through was, how are the challenges with respect to non-English languages addressed, be it in invoice processing, billing, or for that matter, in reporting as well?
Well, I guess I'll make one big comment on it and then ask Esteban, since he deals in a multilingual environment. So the arrival of large language models has changed the game in terms of how we deal with the complexities of language. And I think you're starting to see some of that, right, Esteban?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what we talk is absolutely critical, right? The context awareness when implementing these type of tools. Right now, those type of context awareness, not only language, but also time zone differences, and how you're going to be interacting with a bot. If you are in Europe and the bot is, it's implemented or is working in Latin America, it's something absolutely critical. So right now, the tools that we have, they can actually help you put the operation in context to make sure that you are having realistic transactions and operations when interacting with the bot. So absolutely.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Thank you for that. Beth, do we have time for one more?
Just having a look through our attendee chat, we had a lot of questions about the presentation and if the recording's available. And just to quickly answer those, the slides are available on the console and there will be a recording available. So not to worry, guys, you will have the on-demand.
And just a reminder for everybody, on the Chazey website, we also have the slides. Those are made available to you here in the console, as well as the previous recordings. This will be recorded and available for viewing later. And if you should want to have a conversation and dive deeper into these topics, please reach out and let us know.
I do think, looking at the time, we may have to be the bearer of bad news and call that the end of the session. But what I will say is, if anyone has any other Q&A questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, be sure to put them in the attendee chat. And as always, I will connect with Esteban and Lee to get maybe some written responses for you all, and then relay them post-session.
Yes, we commit to written responses, which we've done on the previous, and we've posted those Q&As. So please do send any questions you have. We promise to come back to you with written responses.
Brilliant. But with that being said, first of all, thank you so much, Esteban and Lee. Brilliant session. And thank you, everyone who took the time to join us today. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, so much.
Thank you very much.